Hi, this is Greg Braden with the spontaneous healing of belief, shattering the paradigm of false limits. In the instant of our first breath, we're infused with the single greatest force in the universe. That force is the power to translate the creations of our mind into the reality of our lives. To fully awaken such a power, however, requires a subtle change in the way we think of ourselves in life, a shift in our beliefs. Just the way a sound creates visible waves as it travels through a droplet of water, our belief waves ripple through the quantum fabric of the universe to become our bodies, as well as the healing, abundance, and peace, or the disease, the lack, and the suffering that we experience in life. And just the way we can tune a sound to change its patterns, we can tune our belief to preserve or to destroy all that we cherish in this world, even including life itself. In a malleable world where everything from atoms to cells is constantly changing to match our beliefs, new discoveries now show us that we are limited only by the way we think of ourselves. This audiobook is dedicated to our acceptance of such an awesome power, and our knowing that we're never more than a belief away from our greatest love, our deepest healing, and our most profound miracles. Introduction. There are no watchers. Pioneering physicist John Wheeler once said, if you haven't found something strange during the day, it hasn't been much of a day. For a scientist, what could be any stranger than discovering that by simply watching our world in one place, we've somehow changed what happens somewhere else? Yet this is precisely what the revelations of new physics are showing us. As far back as 1935, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Albert Einstein acknowledged just how unsettling such quantum effects can be, calling them spooky action at a distance. In a paper that he co-authored with physicists Boris Podolsky and Nathan Rosen, he stated that no reasonable definition of reality could permit these effects of what is now called quantum strangeness. Well, today it's precisely such bizarre anomalies that have ignited a powerful revolution in the way we think of ourselves as well as the universe. For the better part of the 20th century, scientists struggled to understand what strangeness is telling us about the way reality works. It's a documented fact, for example, that human consciousness influences quantum energy, the very stuff everything is made of, under certain conditions. And that fact has opened the door to a possibility that pushes the limits of what we've been led to believe about our world in the past. A growing body of evidence now suggests that these unexpected effects are more than just isolated exceptions. The question is, how much more? Are the effects of observers that influence their experiments actually a powerful window into the kind of reality we live in? And if so, then the next question is this: are those effects also telling us who we are within that reality? Interestingly, the answer to both questions appears to be yes. These are precisely the conclusions that the new discoveries suggest, and they're also why I've written this book. Scientists have shown that while we may think we're only watching and observing our world, in fact, it's impossible for us to simply watch anything. Whether our attention is focused on a quantum particle during a laboratory experiment, or anything else for that matter, from the healing of our body to the success of our careers and relationships, we always have expectations and beliefs about what we're watching. Sometimes we're consciously aware of them, but often we're not. It's these inner experiences that become part of what we're focused on. By watching, we actually become part of what we're watching. In the words of Wheeler, that makes us all participators. The reason? When we focus our attention on a given place in a moment of time, we involve our consciousness. And in the vast field of consciousness, it appears that there's no clear boundary that tells us where we stop and the rest of the world begins. When we think of the universe this way, it becomes clear why the ancients believed that everything is connected. As energy, it is. As scientists continue to explore just what it means to be participators, New evidence points to an inescapable conclusion that we live in an interactive reality where we change the world around us by changing what happens inside of us, our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. This realization leads us to our first code in the spontaneous healing of belief. Belief code number 1 simply states, experiments show that the focus of our attention changes reality itself and suggests that we live in an interactive universe. The implication of this statement is that from the healing of disease and the length of our lives to the success of our careers and relationships, everything that we experience as life is directly linked to what we believe. The bottom line to the implication is simply this: to change our lives and relationships, to heal our bodies, and bring peace to our families and nations requires a simple yet precise shift in the way we use our beliefs. For those who accept what science has led us to believe for the last 300 years, to even consider that our inner experience can affect reality is nothing short of heresy. The very idea blurs the safety zone that has traditionally separated science and spirituality and us from our world. Rather than thinking of ourselves as passive victims in a place where things just happen, for example, for no apparent reason, this consideration now places us squarely in the driver's seat of life. In this position, we find ourselves faced with undeniable evidence confirming that we are the architects of our reality. With this confirmation, we also find that we have the power to make disease obsolete and relegate war to a memory of our past. Suddenly, the key to catapult our greatest dreams into reality is now within our reach. It all comes back to us. Where do we fit in the universe? What is it that we're supposed to be doing in life? What could be more important than answering these questions, understanding what this revolution means to our lives, and discovering what it means to you? In a world where the greatest crises of recorded human history now threaten our future and even our survival, the stakes just couldn't be higher. The false assumptions of science. Although the revolution in the way we think of ourselves began nearly 100 years ago, to average people going about their daily routines, it may have gone unnoticed. The change that it brings to our fast-paced lives of day planners, internet relationships, and reality TV is happening on such a subtle level that few people may have even noticed that it's begun. You probably haven't read about it in the morning newspaper, for example. It's unlikely that the question of reality itself has been the hot topic of conversation in your weekly staff meetings or at the office water cooler. That is, unless you're a scientist working to understand the nature of that reality. For these people, the revolution is like a huge earthquake that registers off the scale, while it levels some of the most sacred beliefs of science. Its effects are thundering through their laboratories, their classrooms, and textbooks like a never-ending sonic boom. In its wake, it's leaving a wide swath of outdated teachings and the painful reevaluation of long-held beliefs and even entire careers. Although it may seem to be a quiet revolution to some people, the transformation that this reality revolution brings to our lives has erupted with a force unmatched by anything in our past. The reason is because the same discoveries that have sparked the questions have also led to the conclusion that the facts we've trusted for over 300 years to explain the universe and our role in it are flawed. They're based upon two assumptions that have been proven to be absolutely false. The first of those assumptions is that the space between things is empty. New discoveries now tell us that this simply is not true. The second false assumption is that our inner experiences of feeling and belief have no effect upon the world beyond our bodies, and this has been proven absolutely false as well. Paradigm-shattering experiments published in leading-edge peer-reviewed journals prove that we are bathed in a field of intelligent energy that fills what used to be thought of as that empty space. Beyond any reasonable doubt, additional discoveries show that this field responds to us. It rearranges itself in the presence of our heart-based feelings and beliefs, and this is the revolution that changes everything. Okay, you're saying, we've heard all of this before. It's naive and maybe even arrogant to suggest that the universe is in any way affected by our personal beliefs. It just cannot be that simple. As a scientist trained in the conventional ways that science has viewed our world in the past, 22 years ago, I would have agreed with you. At first blush, there appears to be nothing in our traditional way of seeing the world that allows for our inner beliefs to do much of anything at all, let alone change the universe itself. That is, however, until we begin to examine what the new discoveries are showing us about our world. Although the results of reality-bending research have been published in leading-edge technical journals, they're often shared in the language of scientification that masks the power of their meaning to a non-scientific person. And that's where our revolution comes in. Suddenly, we don't need the language of science to tell us that we're a powerful part of our world. Our everyday lives show us. I suspect that future generations will see our time in history as the turning point, when the conditions of the world forced us to discover how the universe really works and accept our interactive role in it. Rather than following the first 3 centuries of scientific imagery that portrayed us as powerless victims in life, the new science suggests just the opposite. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, for example, scientists revealed the following facts. Fact number 1. The universe, our world, and our bodies are made of a shared field of energy that was scientifically recognized in the 20th century and is now identified by names that include the field, the quantum hologram, the mind of God, nature's mind, the matrix, and the divine matrix. Fact number 2. In the field of the divine matrix, things that have been connected physically and then separated act as if they are still connected through a phenomenon known as quantum entanglement. Fact number 3. Human DNA directly influences what happens in the divine matrix in a way that appears to defy the laws of time and space. Fact number 4. Human feeling, emotions, and belief directly changes the DNA that influences what happens in that matrix. And fact number 5, when we change our beliefs about our bodies and our world, the divine matrix translates that change into the reality of our lives. Well, with these and similar discoveries in mind, now we must ask ourselves the question that is perhaps the most revealing of all. Are we born with a natural ability to create and modify our bodies and our world? And if so, then we must be willing to ask the next question: what responsibility do we have to use our birth-given power in the presence of what experts tell us are the greatest threats to the future of our lives, our world, and even our species in history? Now is the time. Clearly, we don't know all there is to know about how the universe works and our role in it. Honestly, we still don't even know for certain how it began or what caused it. While new studies will undoubtedly reveal greater insights and still not know all the answers, a growing consensus of science suggests that we simply need not have that long. The direction of technology and an ever-expanding population